What I'm going to do on this video is show you how to get your clothing to fit in layers. I've put some conforming underwear on this figure and then some dForce clothing over the top, and as you can see when it's run the simulation, the dForce clothing is intersecting the underwear. So what you really need to do, if I reset my simulation, if you go to the parameters on the clothing you want on top, in this case I've got a V-neck t-shirt, and change the scale. If you go for something like 105%, you should find it's enough to fit over the underwear. You compensate for that size by going to the surfaces for the same item of clothing. If you filter by EXP, you can get the contraction expansion ratio. Now the amount you need to contract by should be the inverse proportional of your expansion, your scale. So if you do want to calculate this pretty precise, if you do 100 and then divide it by 105, which is the scale I gave the item, you end up with 0.952. So if you change this to 95.2, what I'll do is when you simulate the t-shirt, it will contract on one of the very first stages to 95.2% of its current size, and it will allow for any collision items underneath, so it won't go through the clothing underneath. I don't know if I've got, I've got the same problem with the skirt on this one. So if I go to the skirt, parameters, go to the scale and set that one to 105 as well, you'll see that's nearly enough. Say 110 on that one. 110, you can see that's completely covered the underwear. So back to my calculator. Come on, calculator. Do 100 divided by 110. You get 0.909. So 90.9% I want on that. So for the surfaces of the skirt, 90.9%. Now hopefully when you simulate this, I'm doing it from the A pose, you can see the skirt starts off too big and immediately shrinks back to more or less the same size that it was originally, but this time it will be on the outside of any collision items underneath it. The only time you'll have problems doing this is if you've added a dForce weight modifier, because the parts of the geometry that you've told to have less influence through your weight map won't contract. They will be unaffected by the contraction expansion ratio. But on this one I've got no such dForce modifiers, no weight modifiers on my clothing. I'll probably fast forward this bit because it'll take a while to simulate. Now, I'm not going to let this stabilise, but you'll get the idea. If I cancel the simulation, let's wait for the iRay to render that. What you should see is that the underwear is now underneath the clothing, and that's a result of scaling it up and then forcing it to contract on top. Sometimes if you've got extra mesh smoothing, it will sometimes smoothen your clothing off in such a way that it intersects the underwear again, but if you decrease your smoothing iterations down, you can try increasing your collision iterations on the mesh smoothing as well, and that'll sometimes force it outwards. And that's it.